Hey brother! Guys, as you know, one of the core Easter eggs in any Pixar movie is the one for the next upcoming movie. I always love this one because it requires you to go back to the previous movie to figure out what it was, because at the time it's made, you probably don't even know it exists yet. But in a fun twist, the Toy Story 4 trailer has gone ahead and already revealed what the Easter egg in Incredibles 2 was for Toy Story 4. It is this action figure here in Jack-Jack's crib, better known to us now as Duke Kaboom, with a C instead of a K for some reason. Actually, I literally think the reason it's a C instead of a K is because he's from Canada, which you can tell because he's sporting a Canadian leaf on his bike. That's a maple leaf and it's red. It's the same as the flag. That's how you know he's from Canada. But you can actually see Duke in the new Toy Story 4 trailer right here. Did you see him? No? Don't worry, you can also see him right here. Yes, much better picture. A little hard to see, but pretty clear. Now, we've only seen this character for like half a second so far, so you might not think there's that much to know about this guy, but of course, there is a ton already available. And so today, we're going to go over everything we know about Duke Kaboom. Before we jump into it, just wanted to let you guys know that we have just started a brand new series over on Super Carlin Gaming. We've started the Pokemon X Nuzlocke Challenge. It started last week. It is not too late to get in from the beginning. If you leave a comment, you might get a Pokemon named after you. And in the first video, you can see my son, Luke, choose our first starter. It was super adorable. Highly recommend you go check it out. Duke Kaboom! Who doesn't love a good daredevil, am I right? His character description bills him as Canada's greatest stuntman, and he'll be voiced in Toy Story 4 by none other than Keanu Reeves. Okay, sorry, I know that's like the most overused Keanu Reeves joke ever, but Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure is amazing. And also, I think it totally fits Duke Kaboom here because he is going to be just swaggerific, striking all sorts of action poses throughout the movie. To me, I think he's gonna end up being sort of a weird mixture of like an inverse Buzz Lightyear mixed with Ken the Barbie doll. So in Toy Story 1, Buzz is based off of a fictional space ranger, but Buzz believes he is that space ranger.
Buzz Lightyear to Star Command. Come in, Star Command.
Duke's character, on the other hand, seems to have been based off of an actual daredevil who exists inside the Toy Story universe. And Duke believes he is as capable as the real guy, but secretly, he is not able to perform any of the stunts advertised in the commercial for his toy. And as a result, he spends most of his days just wallowing in his own failures at the antique shop where we will eventually meet Bo Peep. And as such, I think we can guess how his story is going to go, that eventually he'll be faced with a jump he doesn't think he can do, but he'll summon the courage, take flight, fall with style, become the stuntman he was supposed to be, and save the day at the same time. Woohoo! Or will he? Because that certainly sounds like the ending of the Toy Story movie, but if he's actually based on Canada's greatest stuntman, then his happy ending might not be so happy. What I find odd about all the marketing so far is that it keeps describing Duke Kaboom as Canada's greatest stuntman, but it doesn't say who that is, because I have news for you, Duke Kaboom. There is no Duke Kaboom. Not in the real world. You are based on a lie. You do not exist. At least you don't exist under the name Duke Kaboom, but if you, like me, are a mid-70s Canadian daredevil aficionado, then you were not fooled by the moniker of Duke Kaboom either. You knew exactly who Canada's greatest stuntman was. Because the description of a Canadian stuntman who is known more for the jump he couldn't do than the jumps he did do could only be referring to one person. The very real Ken Carter, aka the real Duke Kaboom. Let's travel back to the mid-1970s at the height of Daredevil mania. It is what all the kids want to be, and the undisputed king of them all is, of course, Evel Knievel. Evel Knievel was freaking awesome. He was a worldwide phenomenon known for taking his motorcycle and jumping great distances over buses, stadiums, canyons, rivers, sharks. Yes, sharks. Like, if you miss the jump, you land in a pool of sharks. Although if you want to get technical, and you know I do, he never did the shark jump. He got injured during rehearsals, but the point is he was going to do it. Either way, not important. What is important is that predictably in the world of daredeviling, there is a certain massive amount of one-upsmanship, which is totally understandable. I mean, why risk your life jumping over 15 cars when some other guy did 16? Why should we, the public, care about you and your puny 14-car jump when that guy just did 12 buses? And at that rate, way, you almost always have to be one-upping yourself as well. Like, it's great if you can jump over 15 cars, but we saw you do that last night. I mean, call me when it's the Grand Canyon, right? Actually, that is the exact stunt Evel Knievel was trying to do. Jump the Grand Canyon. Which sounds crazy, but it's kind of hard to define what that distance would be because it's, not really a uniform width, the Grand Canyon. Either way though, he never actually got to do it because the US government would not let him. Although, fun fact, his son eventually did get clearance to jump a section of the canyon and cleared 69 meters. Well done. Barred from the Grand Canyon though, Evel redirected his attention to the Snake River Canyon, which would be no 69-meter jump. This is instead a 400-meter jump, which, like, holy butts, that is insane. That is a quarter-mile long to be flying through the air on a motorcycle. But he did go for it and did not complete it. Shortly after takeoff, his chute deployed prematurely, and he actually ended up landing on the same side he took off of. But so there it was, the challenge, put out there by the best, but not completed. The quarter-mile jump. Could it be done? Well, that brings us back to Ken Carter, Canada's answer to Evel Knievel, aka the Mad Canadian. Duke is almost definitely based on Ken Carter, and I almost feel like they changed the name because they already have a Ken. I do think he's going to be striking just as many poses though. Ken wanted what Evel had, the fame, the glory, and he had started to make a name for himself by jumping racetracks all over North America. But hands down, the event he is most remembered for is the infamous St. Lawrence River jump. Quarter mile, you say? Failed, you say? I don't care, I can do it, and I'm not doing a measly quarter mile, I'm going to quadruple it for the full 1 mile jump. And not on a bike, but in a car. A rocket car. And it shall say Ken Carter and have a picture of the Canadian flag on it. That was the plan he announced in 1976, to take off on a 1,400-foot ramp in Canada, cruise gracefully through the sky for an entire mile, and land as a hero in the United States without a second thought for border control or customs or even his passport. Now that's really the daredevil spirit. And so preparations began, and then stalled and stalled and stalled. Investors came and went, but after 5 years, the jump had yet to be attempted. Not that they hadn't come close on a few occasions. In fact, there was one day where Ken was sitting in the car 5 seconds before the launch and they discovered some sort of mechanical failure and once again had to delay. I think you could see after 5 years with the greatest jump of all time on the line and the danger level so high and so many setbacks why investors might start thinking that the problem isn't any of this other stuff, it's just Ken's nerves. Which leaves you in a weird spot because you've already sunk so much money into the jump. And if you don't think your guy's gonna do it, then that's gonna be a giant waste of money. Somebody's gonna go off that jump, and if he's not gonna do it, then who? Well, this is when they concocted a sort of betrayal. They lured Ken to a meeting off-site, far away from the jump, and then had his understudy, who is confusingly also named Ken, Kenny Powers, do the jump instead. But jumping a mile isn't the same as your run-of-the-mill stadium jump. You can't just get behind the wheel, gun it, and come down safely on the other side. He said, assuming that it's probably not that easy doing a stadium jump either. But in this case, the rocket car they built was specifically designed for Ken Carter. His height, his weight, his sight lines, all that stuff. It literally was like launching a rocket. You have to know everything down to the ounce to get it just right so nothing goes wrong. But nonetheless, his understudy, Kenny Powers, got behind the wheel and went for it anyway, trying to complete the jump that Ken Carter had been dreaming of and dreamt up 5 years ago. Predictably, he failed. The car only went 500 feet before crashing into the river below and breaking 8 of Kenny's vertebrae. Not gonna show it here, but I'll put a link to it down below if you wanna watch the failed attempt. It's a little intense though. And so that was the end of the St. Lawrence River jump. After one gigantic failure, there was no way anyone else was going to get a crack at it. And so Ken Carter's dream died before he even got the chance at the hands of his best friend. But oddly, his friendship with Kenny Powers, who tried to steal his glory, did not end. As the story goes, this was less of a betrayal and more an act of friendship. They knew someone had to do the jump and that it was so unlikely to be completed that they should send in the guy who was more likely to survive it. And Ken Carter was just a lot older and Kenny Powers was more likely to survive. He willingly got in that car pretty much knowing he was going to crash. That's quite an act of friendship. And I'll just pause there and say that we are certainly not the first people to ever cover this story. If you want more backstory and hear more details of this crazy event, I highly recommend the documentary, The Devil at Your Heels, or the episode of the podcast Heavyweights titled Kenny. I will put links to both of them in the description down below. But that brings us back to Duke Kaboom, who I don't think there can be any doubt is based on Ken Carter. He's got the same glorious facial hair, the same swagger, and the same emblematic Canadian maple leaf on his Daredevil vehicle of choice. And of course, he's haunted by the jump he can't do. I will be so interested to see how they work this in. Will there be a second stuntman who he's competing with? Will he have to learn from Buzz, who was haunted by the jump he couldn't do in Toy Story 1? Will he meet the other Ken and they'll be total best buds, striking poses all over the place? Ha-ta! Or maybe he'll just overcome his fears and make the big jump and save the day. We'll just have to wait and find out. Either way, that's almost definitely the real life backstory to this character, and I always think that when you know that sort of stuff going into the movie, it just makes it that much more enjoyable. But Ben, my question for you and everyone else is, which new toy are you most excited to get to know in the new Toy Story 4 movie? Let me know your thoughts in the towel section down below. Hey, do you want to come see Toy Story 4 with Ben and myself and then hang out afterwards and take a picture and talk about the movie? Well, great news. We are doing exactly that in Washington, D.C. on June 30th. Tickets are still available. I'll put a link to that in the description down below. Guys, thanks as always for watching. Please remember to leave a like on this video if you haven't already and subscribe so you don't miss any future Pixar action from us. If you want to check out that Nuzlocke series I mentioned earlier, you can check out that right here. Or if you want to see why Bo Peep is going to be the villain of Toy Story 4, you can check out that video right here. But Ben, that's all I've got for you today, man. I will see you in another life, brother.